Yo, I'm hoping that y'all are going to have a good time at the Final Fantasy pre-release. I'm hoping to. So, Final Fantasy is coming to Magic the Gathering, and it's going to be the first standard legal Universes Beyond set. I've said in the past I'm okay with Universes Beyond becoming standard legal, because even though I don't want that to happen, I recognize that may be one of the few things that will actually cause standard to get revitalized in paper. But I do have some concerns, and the biggest one is that for some reason, as somebody who builds decks a ton, and at this point, basically as part of my living, let's be honest, I've kind of felt completely uninspired to build anything from the Final Fantasy set. I made the Cloud and Sephiroth deck when those were revealed. Past that, man, something about this set just doesn't click with me, and I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is. Maybe it's the lack of cohesion. After all, they're trying to fit Final Fantasy 1 through 16 into one whole set, and so there's really not a whole lot of aesthetic or mechanical cohesion between even those games. Final Fantasies 1 through 7 are all turn-based RPGs with a pretty similar set of rules, but different magic systems. Then you get to Final Fantasy VIII, and it's got this weird system where everything is always scaled to you that gets reverted back in 9 and 10. And then by the time you get to 11 and 14, those are MMOs. 12 has a completely different combat system that doesn't look anything like what's in 13. And then by the time you get to 15, they're in cars. Like, in every Final Fantasy, there's a different world aesthetic, there's a different way the villains are introduced, and there's different types of weaponry that are used. Final Fantasy largely doesn't have one coherent aesthetic, not really. And maybe this is why the set isn't clicking with me right now. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that after I play during pre-release, I'm gonna feel far more inspired to do decks for this series. But as of right now, these are the new cards coming out. These are the decks that I want to make some videos on, and I'm just not really feeling it. And I don't mean that to yuck anybody's yum. If you're excited for the Final Fantasy set, by all means, I'm excited for you. I want you to have a fantastic time with this set. And hell, I am going to be picking up stuff from this set myself, and I'm going to be doing some videos about the stuff I'm picking up from this set. So it's not that I'm not participating in it and therefore I don't care. I want to care, but I want to know if y'all are experiencing the same thing that I am. Maybe it would be better if the Final Fantasy set was based off of Final Fantasies 1 through 6, right? Or at least 1 through 7, because that's when you have kind of a sort of cohesive. There's a handful of these that are very, very much medieval inspired, and then you've got 6 and 7, which are very much steampunk inspired sets that are very, very dystopian. Maybe, or at least 7 is very dystopian. Maybe that would have worked, and then having a follow-up Final Fantasy set with the Final Fantasies that act more contemporary, like 8 and 15. Maybe that would alleviate a little bit of this, but as it stands, I'm not really here for what's in the set, and I wish I were. I really wish I were, because mechanically, there's a bunch of interesting things going on, though there is something that I have to talk about if we're going to talk about game mechanics, and it's kind of important, right? I want to talk about summons. I really like how summons have been handled in this set. It's such a cool idea. Turn summons into sagas. Okay, in every Final Fantasy game, when you have a summon, they are always out for a limited amount of time. My favorite way summons have been done in Final Fantasy was in Final Fantasy VIII, where the Guardian Forces kind of covered up your character and protected them for an amount of time, and they had their own cast timers. And then I had to wait for them to cast their spells for fuck ever, but that's besides the point. I really, really like summons in Final Fantasy. I like how they were carried over into Kingdom Hearts. I like summons. I like these guys a lot. However, I do have a problem. Since summons were turned into sagas in here, which is one of the most flavorful ways you could have done summons, I'm super happy about that. For some reason, sagas have a new way that they function. Previously, if you played a saga, like say Urza's Saga, this card has its saga abilities. You play it, you get ability 1. Turn cycle happens, you get ability 2. Turn cycle happens, you get ability 3, and then the card commits suicide and goes off to Neverland. However, as of Final Fantasy, the rules are getting updated. If a saga has no chapter abilities, it will not be subject to the state-based action that would cause it to be sacrificed due to how many lore counters it has. Similarly, it will not be subject to the turn-based action that adds a lore counter to each saga you control at the beginning of your first main phase. For example, if you have Summon Bahamut with 1 lore counter and it loses all abilities because somebody put Observe Stasis on it, it will not gain lore counters and thus will basically exist on the board forever. Now, this is obviously being done to increase the power of sagas so that they can be a more palatable choice for players for playing the Final Fantasy set. My problem, and this is without any actual evidence, I'm fully hip-firing here, this feels like a decision to change the rules of the game in order to sell a product specifically. And I don't like the precedent that that sets. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not what WotC is doing, and I sincerely hope that is not the actual onus behind this decision. But as somebody who plays Modern, I'm used to seeing this sideboarded in against me, because when I play Modern, I play Hardened Scales, and I play Affinity. When I play Urza's Saga, the way to counter Urza's Saga is to play a Blood Moon, because Blood Moon turns Urza's Saga, the enchantment land saga, into a basic mountain. When you turn it into a basic mountain, it no longer has lore abilities, but it is still a saga. And so the state-based action of the card will cause it to stick around or will normally cause it to die. As of the new rulings, it will no longer die as a result of this, which would be perfectly fine. Okay, you've turned my Urza Saga off, it no longer can search for a card, and now it just exists on the board as a dead card. That would be fine. But that's not the way the rules work now. The way the rules work is, it's not that the Urza Saga gets to sit on there as a dead card. It's that the Urza Saga still maintains its chapter ability, because these are considered a separate thing for some reason. So if you Blood Moon and Urza Saga, the Urza Saga, despite being a basic land with no abilities, has the ability to create the construct token regardless. Why is this a change that has been made? Again, it feels like the change has been made solely to make sure that Saga creatures are more wanted by the player base, and therefore Final Fantasy will have that extra little push to sell it just a little bit harder. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But the end result of that rule means Urza Saga is now a whole hell of a lot more powerful. It's harder to get rid of on the board with cards that normally punish greedy land bases in Modern. And now, instead of just saying, oh, my Urza Saga is not going to work with Blood Moon, that sucks, now uniquely we have a land that if I play the Blood Moon on my opponent, and I can just play it in my main deck, my Urza Saga now gets to basically infinitely make these tokens. Obviously, it's not infinite, it's once every turn, but as somebody who plays Affinity with one of the win cons being Urza Saga creating just two of these construct tokens and swinging them sideways at a player, the ability to make these over and over and over and over and over again by timing a Blood Moon that locks my opponent out of most of their plays is wild. And this is after Wizards of the Coast gave us Mox Opal back. I don't like this precedent. I felt like those two decks were perfectly fine as they were, and I'm trying not to do the old man yells at cloud thing, but This feels like an oversight that naturally happens when you make a game design decision in order to make a card type more, well, wanted. And I don't like that. Magic has changed its fundamental rules a lot of times throughout the years. They've changed the way the combat step works in order to make it a lot more simple for everybody. We lost the ability to do giant growth as the defender, for instance, at least during certain parts of the damage step. And then, of course, one of the earliest ones I can think of that happened when I was a kid even was mana burn being taken out of the game. This is not the first time a rule has been changed in Magic, and it's not going to be the last time. But man, this particular rule feels weird and it sours me a bit on Final Fantasy. I want to be excited for this set. I want to like this set. This set is a set that I argued in favor of in a previous video, and I want to be happy about it. And yet I see WotC doing stuff like this, and it just feels like mishandling of something that should be incredibly simple. But that's just my thoughts. I want to know what y'all's thoughts are in the comment section below. Apologies that I have not made as many decks lately. A lot of that comes down to the fact that our new set of cards that have come in have been ones that I've just not been as excited for as I wanted to be, and here's hoping that pre-release will change that for me. I'm going to be trying to go to pre-release tomorrow, and maybe that's going to make things a bit better for me. This set has more legends in it than any set I've played with Magic before, so, like, there should be something in here I'm happy about. We'll find out. We'll find out. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Hopefully y'all are a little more positive on this set than I am. And maybe, hopefully, I can gain that positivity when I play in a limited environment tomorrow. Let me know what y'all think. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravelern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Mark Anthony, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.